We're live. There we go. All right. Hey, how you doing, everybody? Today is April Fool's Day. Haha. We're gonna have a joke for you? I don't think so. We'll keep it normal. Here on the Wholesale Real Estate Investing number 242 by SAHA. Welcome all. Welcome wholesale real estate investors. Welcome real estate investors. Welcome everybody who's out there. And want to give a quick shout out to Joe Fairless. Has a podcast called the World's Greatest Real Estate Investing Advice or something like that. You might want to look for it. Got a hold of me and did a little interview with me that so he'll have I'll be one of his live podcast broadcasts here whenever that goes live. I'm not exactly sure. He hasn't sent me the date yet on it, but I imagine it'll probably be very shortly. So thanks a lot for that, Joe. That was a lot of fun. And I would like to welcome all of you guys to this Freedom Friday show here, where we're going to see what's on the line, or I thought we were going to see what's on the line, but John's not here today. So what I want to say about let's see what's on the line is, there was what was it that came up yesterday? It was something that came up yesterday. See, I liken wholesale real estate to fishing. Now, you guys all know how fishing works. I liken it to, sort of ocean fishing, because you got this big old massive sea of fish out there, right? There's all kinds of different species of fish in the ocean. And, if you want to go out there and go catch your supper, so to speak, well, you get in your boat and, you got to buy a whole bunch of you got to buy a whole bunch of bait. You got to buy a whole bunch of chum, and you head out in your boat. And then when you get out there in the middle of the ocean somewhere, you got no idea really what's out there. And you get your buckets of chum and you start throwing that overboard. That's sort of like your marketing, right? The big old ocean is your random sea of houses out there, potential deals out there, and then your chum is sort of like throwing your marketing overboard. And hopefully you'll attract some of these deals up to the boat, right? Or some of these fish up to the boat. And then once you've got some fish around the boat, then you grab your rod and your reel and you put some of that bait on there and you throw some bait over the side of the boat there, and you hope that something likes your bait. And that's the same thing with your marketing. You've got this big old sea of randomness of potential deals out there, and you throw your bait overboard or your chum overboard, you throw your marketing out there, and then you hope that something likes your marketing, something likes your bait. And if something likes your bait, on the boat, on the fishing boat, if something likes your bait, it'll bite that hook and woo, hey, I got something, right? And you start reeling it in, but you have no idea what's on the other end of that line, do you? And the same thing happens in wholesale real estate. When you throw out all your marketing like that, all of a sudden, finally, woohoo, hey, the phone's ringing. But you have no idea what's on the other end of that line, do you? So you're on the boat and you reel up your fish and you finally get your fish up to the boat and you look at this fish and you ask yourself a question. Am I going to eat, or do I have to throw it back? Is it big enough? Is it the right species? Is it something that is poisonous? Is it going to kill me? All these things, a lot of different variables there, a number of different possibilities of what you might reel up and pull up out of the water. And so, you got to take the hook out of it. And many times you got to throw these things back. And same thing happens when, you're in wholesale real estate, especially when you're starting out in wholesale real estate, because when you first start out, there's a very good possibility that, you've got a very limited toolbox. So there's a lot of different types of deals out there. There's a lot of different deal structures that are going to need to come into play in order to turn, deals into deals, especially in today's world. I mean, it's not so easy to just get that person who says, yeah, you know what, I got a problem, I need to get out, I want to sell this house, yeah, I'll let it go for a deep discount, and yeah, if you make money on it, great, I don't care. There's not nearly as much of that today as there was 4, 5, 6, however many years ago. So when you after you've thrown out your chum, you've sent out your marketing, and you've thrown out your bait, and somebody's actually called you on the phone. Now you pick up the phone and you're like, hey, yeah, hey, this is Paul. Yes, I do buy houses. How are you today? What can I do for you? And they start telling you what their problem is. Well, you look into your toolbox and you go, crap, I ain't got a tool for that. I don't know if I can fix this guy's problem, right? And so they tell you what it's all about, and you're like, okay, well, that sounds really good. How about I, look into the values of this property, et cetera, and so on, and I give you a call back in, a couple hours or tomorrow morning or whatever it is that you set up, right? So you hang up the phone and you're like, I don't know if I can fix this guy's problem. Let me see what this house is worth, yada, yada, yada. You look at this thing and you're like, I don't know what I can do here. And ultimately, you don't eat, because if you can't make a deal out of it, then you can't get a contract on it, you can't sell it, you can't make any money. And that's one of the things that happens early on, especially in your wholesale real estate investing career, because the education that you paid for basically taught you one system. Here's how you make the offer at 60 cents on the dollar minus repair costs, and then you get the deal and you turn around and you sell it to your investor, and that's all that you can do. So if it doesn't fit that parameter, it'd sort of be like, okay, you're sitting at home one day, right, and the kids are outside playing baseball, and all of a sudden, crash, boom, here comes the ball through the window, and you're like, oh crap, I got to get that window fixed now, right? So you pick up the phone book, and you open it up to contractors, and you just randomly grab a number right here, and you call up and you say, hey, yeah, I got a broken window, or I need I'm sorry, hey, I need some work done at my house. That's what you're still a little blunt, right? You say, hey, I need some work done at my house. The address is yada, yada, yada. When can you be here? Guy says, oh, okay, great. I can be there, first thing tomorrow morning, 8 o'clock, right? So next morning at 8 o'clock, this guy drives all the way across town to come fix your problem at your house. And he shows up and knocks on the door, and you say, oh, yeah, hey, come on in. He's like, all right, well, where's the problem at? He says, well, it's right over here. I got this broken window. And the guy says, oh, well, I'm a plumber. I don't have tools for fixing a window. I can't fix your problem for you. And that's sort of what it's like. If you don't have the right tools in that toolbox, you're not going to be able to fix that seller's problem. Excuse me. Had to get a drink of that. So one of the reasons why we started our property noodler team and why we call ourselves property noodlers is because of two reasons. Number one, obviously, we started the thing so that we could offer to people who are getting started all the tools in the toolbox, because we've been doing it long enough. Obviously, pretty much anybody that calls with any type of a situation, pretty much except for short sales, because we just don't bother with those. But any other situation, we can pretty much come up with some sort of a creative plan to work this deal into a deal and get this thing, signed onto a contract and into escrow, because you do have to become very creative over time. So this gives people an opportunity to not have to pass up on deals. I'll tell you straight up, when I first started this, I sent out, how many mailers did I send? I think I sent out, your typical. Back then it was 110 and 1 was the quotient, so to speak. And you sent out 100 mailers, you get 10 phone calls, you land one deal. Not like that anymore, guys, trust me. We had a little thing talking the other day at one of our meetings about how just recently I heard that the average cost to land a deal is now $1,800, where when I first heard that stat back in 2012, which was only, 4 years ago, 3.5 years ago, whenever it was during 2012 that I heard that, it was only $1,200 a deal. So it's gone up, at 50%, from 1,200 to 1,800. And actually, and it said 18 to 2,200 is what the stat actually read. $1,800 to $2,200 of marketing cost to land one deal, and so that's a pretty hefty price. A lot of people don't have that price, especially when they start up. You know, spend all your money learning and getting education on how to do all this stuff, and then now you got to spend another $2,000 just to hopefully get that first deal. That's oftentimes you know, too much for somebody. They're just like, I don't know if I can do this now. I don't have enough money, kind of a situation. So the ease of getting a deal from what it was before has definitely changed. So where was I at now? I do that all the time. I get off on a tangent and then forget where I was going on the other subject. But anyway, regardless, the whole idea of why we created our system. That's right. So why we created our system, like I said, was to give somebody, you know, the ability to join on team where there's all the tools in place so that we don't have to pass up on, you know, the rare deals that, you know, are coming in, although they're not so rare for us, but still, you know, so you don't have to pass up on any deals. And then the second thing was, what was the second thing I was talking about there now? It doesn't matter. So that was, yeah, that's one of the reasons why we started the team, was to do that and give people that opportunity to come in and have that ability. That bums me out. Where was I going? Oh well, one of those mornings. I don't know. I slept a little weird last night, but I'm okay. So anyway, so yeah, so that's where, you know, like I said, why we call ourselves property noodlers is because the property noodling side. I don't know if you guys have ever seen the catfish noodlers. When a catfish noodler is a guy who goes down to the river, knows exactly why he's going to the river. He's there to get a catfish, not some random fish out in the ocean that he has no idea what it's going to be. He knows he's there to get a catfish. So what's he do? Instead of, you know, sticking some bait on a line and throwing it in the water and waiting and hoping the catfish likes his bait, this guy strips off his shirt, takes off his shoes, jumps in with his Levi's on, and starts feeling around the bank of the river for that hole where the catfish is, and reaches his hand in there and says, "Oh yeah, there's a catfish," and shoves his fist down the throat, pulls this catfish out, and says, "There we go, we're eating tonight." And that's sort of how we approach our system as well too. Is we know that every deal that we go out to, there's a deal there. There's no question that there is a deal there. Now, whether or not we're going to be able to get the people, the ownership of the property to play ball with creating a deal with us, that's the part that remains, you know, that's the part that is still random. There's nothing we can do about that. We don't know who it is we're going to go out there and talk to. But as far as the property itself, we eliminate all the randomness in that. We know that every property, every lead, every deal that we're chasing down and talking to these owners about, there's a deal there. It's just a matter of whether or not we can strike one up with that person. And that's a huge thing because number one, it saves us a whole lot of money on random marketing costs, which that's what I call a property noodler, is a wholesaler who eliminates randomness. And because, you know, like I said, realistically, when you hear a lot about targeted marketing, you know, you want to target, you know, have targeted marketing, narrow down your search and all that sort of stuff. But still, with the methods of creating targeted marketing, with the methods of narrowing down your search, there is still a lot of randomness within that, which is why, like I was saying, that old quotient of, you know, 100 mailers equaled 10 phone calls equaled one deal. Well, if 100 mailers equals 10 phone calls, which equals only one deal, that sounds like about 99% randomness to me. You know, so, and if it's, like I said, if it's darn near doubled, so now what? It's well, no, because 100 letters, yeah. So now it's actually more like what is it? 1,800 letters equals, I don't know, maybe 18 phone calls, which equals one deal. That seems to be the because letters cost about $1 a piece. So to get $1,800 worth of marketing, there you go. There's 1,800 letters that go out. So you need a list of 1,800 people. Lists aren't free, first of all, for the most part. Once you get into the business and start making some connections, you might be able to find a source to get lists for free. But the freer they are, unfortunately, the little bit more randomness that they're going to have to them. Title companies will oftentimes create lists for you. But here again, too, they're just, they're just compiling a random list. So there is a lot of randomness in there. And when you get to 1,800, gosh, what would that be? I know one place that charges, or that used to charge, I don't know, I haven't used them in a while, but they used to charge 26 cents. And that was for a small batch. So they'd probably give you a break. Let's just say it's 19 cents times 1,800. That's $340 just for a list. Well, that's not a bad price. 1,800 names for $340. That's actually probably a really good price. And if it does get you one deal and you make, $10,000 or whatever it might be, hopefully more, but if you make $5,000 off of that, you spent $340, you put out $1,800 in marketing. That's you're at $1,900. Your time and effort and whatnot, whatever you consider that worth. But if you land a deal and you make $5,000 off that deal, well, it's a $3,000 net. Hey, it's worth it, but it's a lot of work. So anyway, let's see what's on the line. That's, like I said, where I was narrowing this down to, and that was the fact that, as I spoke about, when you send your marketing out and you finally get somebody who calls on the phone, and you are the person who now needs to, create a deal here, who is on the line these days? That's the question, is who is out there? Who's on the line? Who's answering the call of we buy houses anymore? And I'll tell you, it's not a lot. Well, only one in 1,800 that motivated seller that you're looking for, that desperate, I just want to get rid of this property kind of a person. Whereas at one point in time, that was out of 100. So that's a huge differential from what it used to be. And it's all based on the fact that, obviously markets change, activity changes, what's going on with real estate changes. Obviously the fallout from the crash was what created such a huge boom opportunity. And here's the interesting thing. The fallout from the crash is what created such a huge boom opportunity. And yet during that time, nobody wanted to get into wholesale real estate or real estate investing or anything like that, when there was opportunity on every door, on every corner, and 15 more down the block. And now, now that real estate's doing good, now that prices are up, now that people are able to buy some houses, now all of a sudden it seems like everybody wants to get into wholesale real estate. Well, I'm not discouraging anybody, because it is still a good time, but the dynamic of what makes it a good time is completely different from what it was. Now, the good news is if this is something that you're interested in doing and learning, if you come in here and you do and you learn now, you'll be able to be positioned for the point in time in my opinion, very near to not too distant future, when there's going to be another group, not nearly as big, of course, but another unfoldment of larger opportunity for that wholesale super motivated, I just want to get rid of this house type of opportunity. I think my feeling is that it's coming back very, very soon. And my feeling of that comes from just looking at history. Okay. Everybody says that, you've all heard the saying, that says, if you if you don't know your history, that you are doomed to repeat it. Well, we've been doomed to repeat it decade after decade after decade, because if you do a little research on the word recession, and you can probably go all the way back to, the Great Depression, starting in the 1930s with the Great Depression. There was a recession. I didn't look at the 40s. I didn't go back to the 40s or 50s. I actually started in the 60s, but I'm probably pretty sure that somewhere between the 30s and the 50s, there was at least one additional recession in there. And then in the 60s, there's a recession. In the 70s, there was a recession. In the 80s, there was a recession. In the 90s, there was a recession. In 2000s, we didn't get a recession, obviously, because and look what happened. A recession every 10 years, and then all of a sudden we get into 2000 and we don't have a recession. We get a full-blown depression. Which it really is. It really was. I mean, it was more of a depression than it was just a, quote, recession, or a great recession. And we're still recovering from it. We're still in a recession right now. But it's not tabulated as one. According to, the powers that be, everything's all good now. It's, going back to the way it was. People are back to work. Unemployment is up, all of those things. And the thing about recession is the only thing that they really base recession on, what classifies a recession, is job loss, is the unemployment level. When the unemployment level drops, then, we're, quote, in a recession. People go back to work and jobs are filled. When the unemployment level comes up, then, we're, quote, no longer in a recession. Which, I don't know, that's kind of a ridiculous thing, but that's how they have classified it over the years. And so you look at it, and every decade there's a pretty substantial job loss, a recession. And what happens when we have this pretty substantial job loss every year? What's happening with money? Well, generally, I mean, about every 10 years, you've got a whole nother crop of people. And this is, from the old traditional way now, the industrial age, the work 40 years for that gold watch retirement plan, right? So about every 10 years, you got a whole new crop of people, a whole new generation, so to speak, who is hitting that gold watch era, that retirement era. And then boom, there's a recession, and people lose jobs, and stocks and bonds, and all of these things lose value. And all these people that worked 40 years to get to that, point in time when now I've got, free time and money and I can live my life, and they get a chunk of it taken away, and they get relegated back to a position of now, oh my gosh, all the plans that we made, I mean, what are we going to do? It seems like every 10 years, the people of retirement age are asking, oh my God, what are we going to do now? Why is that? So that's what tells me positioning yourself now in learning about wholesale real estate and being in position for when this next recession hits, this next plow of job loss, this next plow of low unemployment, when that hits. It's been since 2006. I mean, today is 10 years. And they don't always come. I mean, it doesn't come exactly on 10 years, so don't plan it that way. But it's here. It's right around the corner. We're lined up for it. There's a recession in our future. There's job loss in our future. There's another fleecing of the retirement age people in our future. And so when that happens, there's going to be a lot more wholesale housing opportunity, because obviously there's going to be a whole lot of people who are now in dire straits with these houses, with this real estate. And so it's going to be an opportunity like I said, not like it was from 2006, where there was just, I mean, you couldn't swing a dead cat without hitting a motivated seller. But and I wish I was smart enough to know that in 2006. It took me until 2011 to figure it out. But anyway, I caught the tail end of it, got in at a good time where I was able to learn and do this and grow. And the thing is like I said, right now, people are all excited about it because they're doing well, they're doing okay, and they've got money to spend on this education to learn how to do this, but they're learning how to do it at like the most difficult time when it's the hardest to find a deal. And it's just human nature. When something doesn't happen right away, that shit don't work. Next, shiny object, that's just human nature. So a lot of people are spending a lot of money on education that'll never be used right in this time, right about now. Unfortunately, that's the way it is. So, but we're willing to put people in a position where they can learn inexpensively, very inexpensively in comparison, where they can learn, where they can grow, where they can build their confidence, where they can, participate in deals, see how it goes, learn the business, and once again, be positioned for when, the fruit ripens again. So I just wanted to say what's on the line. It's not a motivated seller, not in today's economy, not in today's real estate market. The chances of it being a motivated seller are slimmer than ever. However, it doesn't mean that it's not a deal. And it doesn't mean that it can't be made into a deal if you got the right tools in your toolbox. So with that, I just want to say that I still think it's a great time if you go about it the right way to get positioned in wholesale real estate for when it is a whole lot easier to find that motivated seller in the very, very near future. And I'm going to end that with, excuse me, Rob. I'm going to make that the end of the show today and end as we always do with the Napoleon Hill prayer, which goes, "Oh, universe, I ask not for more riches, but for more wisdom, with which to make better use of the riches given to me at birth, consisting of the power to control and direct my own mind to whatever end I might desire." Everybody make it a great Freedom Friday. Enjoy your celebration. We'll see you back here on New Op Day, where obviously we will go back into what real estate is all about, relationships, and our study course of the How to Win Friends and Influence People by Dale Carnegie. Everybody enjoy.